Hello and welcome to the Hyzer Flip podcast, brought to you by Ultimate Disc Golfer. I'm Brunch.
And I'm Null.
Every week, we'll be bringing you a conversation with an Ultimate player turned disc golfer.
We hope that this podcast helps you on your journey through disc golf.
Without further ado, let's get into it. Today we are joined by Tiina Booth, coach of UMass Men's Ultimate. Tiina was inducted into the USAU Hall of Fame in 2016 for her contributions to the development of Youth Ultimate and the early development of the women's division. She is well known for her coaching at Amherst Regional High School and now UMass Men's Ultimate, as well as founding and directing Nutsy, the world's best youth ultimate camp. Tiina is also an experienced disc golfer. Thanks for joining us today, Tiina.
Hey, thank you guys so much. This is really fun. As you know, I said to a friend today, I'm doing a podcast talking about people transitioning from ultimate to disc golf, and I feel deeply and uniquely qualified to do that. And sometimes when I do podcasts, I don't feel that way, but thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. You are definitely uniquely qualified. So a lot of our listeners are people in the ultimate community, and I'm sure they are very familiar with your work coaching UMass and Amherst in the past, but I'm sure a lot of them don't know about your disc golf hobby / competitive career in the past. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about your disc golf career?
I'd be happy to. I think before I talk about my playing disc golf, I need to paint a picture of what ultimate was like in the early 80s. The women's division didn't start till 1982. I think men's was maybe 78, maybe. And anyway, when we would want to plan our season, we would have a captain's meeting, an in-person meeting twice a year, either at Purchase, New York, or I remember we went to New Haven, we went to Ithaca, went to Philadelphia, and everyone would get together and like in a little college auditorium and go up front and say, you know, I'm hosting a tournament in Philadelphia this weekend. Raise your hand if you want to go, and we exchange phone numbers. You know, I'm sure it sounds archaic to you guys, but it was, you know, in many ways, it was a ton of fun. And also what it was is, you know, we didn't have that much ultimate. You know, I just finished a conference yesterday online, and we never could do a conference in August because everyone would be going to a million different tournaments. So since there were so few tournaments, everyone went to them for the most part, and we got to know each other really well. And on the other weekends, we all started doing individual events. And they would be all around New England. I ran a bunch of them in Rhode Island. And the events would be disc golf, double disc court, freestyle, unless it was a tournament that I was running. I would never do freestyle. I mean, I know how to do it, but it's not my thing. Distance contests, MTA, maybe TRC, which is throw, run, and catch. So it wasn't, you know, so you would go on an off weekend to these individual event tournaments and compete against the people you played with on the other weekends for ultimate. So that's how I first started. It was kind of like, you know, it just, everyone did everything. And so when I think back on my friends of my age who were ultimate players, you know, I also remember them breaking the world's record in MTA. I was lucky enough to see that. And just, you know, just a lot of really fond memories. I used to do the disc golf circuit, drive down to southern states and, you know, and compete then. So that's how it arose. And obviously in your generation, we're not even close to it. And yet with this pandemic, it's really fun to see that a lot of people are playing disc golf. So I just kind of played, wasn't very good, but, you know, I could throw pretty far. I'm really good at aiming. I'm not particularly fleet of feet, but, you know, I learned how to play. When we first were playing just hitting trees or like chicken wire baskets on the ground. And then when we actually found a course that had disc golf baskets in it, it was very, very exciting.
That's interesting how back in the day, both the sports were kind of connected, but over time they've kind of grown separate to the point where, you know, you say that you play ultimate frisbee and people are like, oh, so you like throw the disc in the basket, and you're like, no, not the same thing at all.
Right.
You kind of get offended. Why would you say they grew apart like that?
So not only did all of us who went towards ultimate, broke off and had to leave the other parts behind just because, it's a lot. I mean, you guys played college, a September through June season, and then I would run camp for a month. I didn't want to see Frisbee, in August. So I think part of it was a time constraint. I also want to say that the people that were doing individual events with me in like the 80s are still doing them. There's like a Virginia State Championship and there's double disc court competitions. And it's mainly a lot older folks. I don't know, other than in disc golf, whether young folks are taking their places. So yeah, so it was a matter of time. And I think, for me, I liked Ultimate more because it was a team, and it was more exciting. And, disc golf can be really lonely and frustrating. So I think that's why a lot of people went towards teams.
In your experience starting in disc golf, you mentioned how a lot of the courses you guys were playing in, attacking trees or whatever and found baskets. How have you seen disc golf courses grow in your time playing disc golf and like their development into more advanced courses?
Yeah, I mean, just the sheer number. Like when I asked you guys where you play disc golf in the eastern part of the state, there's one place I know, which is Borderlands, which I've played. But then you mentioned a bunch of other ones. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I don't even, I don't know anything about them. When we were first starting, there was, let's see, there was Borderlands, there was a course in Rhode Island. Then the main guys started picking up and putting things. So you had to travel 2 or 3 or 4 hours to get to a place to play. I also played at Charlton. Have you played at Charlton at all?
Not yet, no.
It's a really good course. So yeah, just by the sheer number. And then as the numbers increased and the playing increased, from my point of view, I don't know if this is historically accurate, you saw Innova and Discraft. I don't know, Discraft came first. But anyway, they started producing all those discs. And I think that's another thing, which is why disc golf is improving or having bigger numbers maybe than us, is because you need so many discs. I don't know, you need as many as people carry, but you need a lot of discs. And, they're expensive. And then when I was watching disc golf on TV yesterday, they've got all the gear and the bags and the chairs and the matching matching, what do you call them? What are the hats that are cut out? I'm sorry.
Visors?
Visors, yeah, matching visors. And, it's, one of the reasons Ultimate's not that big is because we don't need that much equipment. And disc golf, you do.
That is one of the things that I've noticed while joining disc golf, is that it is a cheap sport to start playing. All you need is 3 discs, even one will do you. But you quickly become a little bit obsessive over it, and you start buying and buying and buying. And for the people that love to spend money on hobbies, disc golf is a great hobby. Whereas Ultimate kind of has a ceiling on spending.
Right.
After you buy a pair of cleats and, I don't know, like a bag, there's not that much gear that you really need to play.
Yeah, I mean, how much Patagonia do you really need?
Exactly.
4 half flips should do it, Yeah, I know. And so that's I'm going to get back into the sport because I got a lot of free time, but I'm a little bit reluctant to, not to bring out my plastic, even though it's old, but I'm a little bit reluctant to have to put my brain into figuring out, I don't know what those 4 numbers mean. I don't really think I want to know what those 4 numbers mean. I just want 10 putters and 3 approach discs and 3 drivers and just 10 putters so I can practice. But yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. I don't get the whole thing. I follow Brody and the whole thing with the Get Freaky discs, and they, sell them at 2:00 and people are pissed because they're sold out at 2:05. I don't get all that. And I don't think I'm going to, but, but it's great to see the energy around it. And the fact that people think that having better plastic makes them play better, could be true.
Do you think that for an Ultimate player that, learns how to throw disc golf discs and plays a little bit, do you think that benefits them in understanding, how an Ultra Star flies? Or do you see any way that playing disc golf can help an Ultimate player play Ultimate?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Kyle Weisbrod and I disagree on this. He tweeted something the other day. Yeah, it infuriates me on a low level when ultimate players are like, "Oh, I can't play with a golf disc because it's going to ruin my throws." We're not friggin' brain surgeons, and it's not going to ruin your throw. And the thing that disc golf does is it increases your snap. And if you have increased your snap and that's a stronger throw for you, it doesn't really matter what you have in your hand. I mean, sure, you're going to have to change the angle of release and maybe the height of release, but, you know, throwing a frisbee is throwing a frisbee. And I think, just, I mean, I've seen it. I don't know if you all know Emily Pazzi, who's a young player up in Maine. And she won, I can't even tell you how many distance contests she's won at Nutsy. And she started playing disc golf when she was probably 8, maybe, with her dad and her sister. And she has the most beautiful ultimate throws in the world. So, yeah. The other part about disc golf, which I do think is good, is that it makes you work on your mental game. Like you really just have to focus on what's in front of you.
That's one of the things we were going to ask you about. To prepare for this podcast, I listened to a few other podcasts where you spoke about mentality and the mental game in ultimate, and becomes, quickly become aware that that's one of the things that, Tiina Booth, that you are known for in ultimate. So I wanted to ask you what your thoughts are on mentality in disc golf and how it relates to ultimate.
So I've been watching, as I said, a lot of disc golf on TV, and the overall presentation is great. The videography is great. The commentating is okay, and it all looks way better. And then I'm watching one guy putting, and it's one of those holes that are up high, and he clanks it. He's on a hill, and he clanks it off the basket, and it turns on his edge, and it rolls behind him. And I'm like, I know that. I've done that before. I remember that. And so that was really good for me to connect that kind of angst when you miss a putt and the next putt is even more difficult. So, so the connection, obviously, in terms of being mentally resilient, is that you have to stay in the moment. And if the more you can do that in disc golf, the better you're going to be. And obviously, how I talk about that when it translates to ultimate. The other thing I noticed was, Kevin Jones was putting. I don't know if you saw that. It was kind of like a layup out of the woods, and he had been ahead going into the final card by like 3 strokes, and then he had a bunch of bogeys in a row. And I think this was in the beginning of the bogey run, but so he goes to put it to, kind of lay up, and he like shanks it 90 degrees to his right into the woods again. It was shocking to me. But yet again, I said, I know that. I know what it's like to shank a disc. All of those things. So, also focusing on the right, thing. So if I'm golfing and there's a narrow window right off the tee, I don't want to be thinking, oh my God, I hope I don't hit the tree on the right. And, with the rule is you hit the tree on the right. So positive self-talk is a big part of it. Being able to focus. When we had our conference yesterday, I don't know if you've seen the Molly Goodwin Born to Play documentary, but I highly recommend it. And she was our keynote speaker, and she was talking to one of her NFL coaches, and he liked to say, play with amnesia, which is the new thing I'm going to steal, because that's what you need. You just can't, you can't be too high and you can't be too low. Okay, one more thing about that. So when I first started playing, and I was awful, when I would hit a tree or, turf the disc, I would become derailed. And then when I got better, and I'm like, oh, I'm good at this, I would become derailed again because I was not staying in the moment. So, so that's something I think that translates really well. And I'm so confident in my understanding of disc golf, and mainly my understanding of mental psychology, is that Jimmy Bress and I are in the process of establishing a business which is going to bring mental toughness lessons to disc golfers. And we don't have a name, um, but we have a purpose, and I'm super excited about
That's awesome.
That's really
I
great.
wish I had like an applause button to press.
it. Yeah, it just came to me. I'm like, oh wow, and and it's good for me to have Jimmy because he's a regionally competitive player,
Hmm.
and he's sat with Dr. Goldberg. I coached him in Ultimate, and he and I are simpatico on what we need to what we need to teach, and I'm going to rely on him to do more of the disc golf stuff. So one of the things, we're sharing a Google Doc, which mainly he has filled up. But one of the things he mentioned was someone's approach to playing league on a Wednesday night versus competing in a tournament. And sometimes league is just kind of, let's just fool around or try this shot or that shot, and how you can practice better when you're at league. So we got a million little tricks, I think, that will improve disc golfers. And I talked to a couple of people in the business, and they suggested not aligning with any disc golf company because since people are so incredibly loyal, see, I don't know any of this, but are loyal to their Discraft, Innova, Prodigy, Infinity, whoever. I guess there's like 60 businesses.
There's a lot.
Wild.
There's a lot.
Yeah. So they said we should just be freelancing and see how it goes. And so rather than doing a weekend conference, since they can still play, that wouldn't work. We're thinking about like on a Tuesday night from 7 to 8:30, $19. We'll teach you the basic philosophy, and then we'll give you concrete things to work on in your game. And one of my friends said that, I said, so is anyone doing this? And he said the top people might have someone on the down low, but no one knows. And otherwise, no one is really doing it. So we'll give it a shot, whatever. I got to do something. So.
Well, definitely. Once you have, once it's a little more established and you have whatever it is, we're happy to promote it through our channel as well, because I think that's something that people would love.
Oh, great.
I, for one, can definitely use some help. I try to bring my ultimate mentality that I developed over the past few years to disc golf, but it's still like today. I played this morning and I had that exact same thing where I hit the basket and it rolled down further than it needed to, and I threw 3 double bogeys in a row after that. So,
right. I totally get that. And what I've been doing is checking, like the PDGA thing, where you can check the scores. I don't even understand what the scramble percentage is, any of that stuff. But I love looking at people's golf cards. And when I see, par, birdie, bogey, I'm like, oh, I know what that is. I know what that is.
Yeah.
The other thing I noticed was one of the women golfers, she had a bad hole before, and she all of a sudden started doing things more quickly on the next hole. Like, I'm not even, like, I'm going to putt and this and that. And you can just, from watching their body that they are still thinking about what just happened. So yeah, I think I can be really helpful in that way and have some fun and try to relearn some of the lessons from 30 years ago, 40 years ago. I'm really looking forward to it.
One more question about mental toughness and mentality in disc golf, specifically for an ultimate player going to disc golf, right?
Okay.
In ultimate, there's a lot more energy involved. There's a lot more motivation to play coming from high energy, and there can be a lot of ups and downs from that. In disc golf, you see a lot of people that are successful have very low mute energy throughout a round. How do you recommend a ultimate player to kind of adjust to disc golf if they especially come in as being a high energy player like Brunch, who is a little bit struggling with his mentality in disc golf right
now? I totally see that. I mean, obviously the obvious example is Brody, who's so aggro when he sinks his scuba putts, which I understand because they're pretty amazing. I think that's what I think is really going to be interesting, depending on how long and how much integration is going to happen. You gotta you can't be too high or too low. I mean, that's what regular golf is too.
Hmm.
And I was watching one, I don't know if it was Jack Hatchett was going for maybe like a long, it was either hole in one or a long putt, and it was really long. I think it was for hole in one, and he hit off the basket, and he's like, oh no, and I'm like, holes in one are very difficult, and it's not like just cutting hard and going to the cone. And so I just thought it was great. It was just like a little bit of ultimate on the disc golf um, course. So yeah, I mean, maybe we'll redefine it. Even when, in the years past, when the ultimate players would play disc golf, they were pretty mellow because they had, because we did everything. This is not, I don't know, like it's interesting, like thinking about Brody, like how much influence he's going to have. He needs to do better. He needs to play better golf. But, it's hard. And I think it's really good for people to see how he is struggling because it's not just about throwing it as far as you can. And the other thing I want to talk about is, I would give anything for like 20 women ultimate players from Boston to like just go to a tournament if they could get in. But they're not going to know what to do with, if 20 went, there'd probably be 25 total. The women's numbers are really small. They are, they're maybe not as small as when I played, but there hasn't been, I think that probably the men's growth is straight up, and I think the women's growth is slightly going up, but not in the same thing. And a lot of the women who do play are either married or partnered with some of the men. And then there's a bunch of women that just choose to carry their men's discs and be their kind of a caddy. There's women out there who can be playing, and I'd love to see the women ultimate players doing it. I think it'd be really fun to see, like Leela or Emily Bacher or Dory out there just ripping it. It'd be so fun.
I agree with you because a lot of, especially these regional tournaments out here, there's only like 3 or 4 women competing. So
Right.
you sign up and you're like in 3rd place automatically.
I know, and then you get your money back, or you get a bunch of discs. I know.
Exactly. So I went out and played with JoJo Emerson, who is on
I know.
Boot Squad now, and she loved it. So we went out once, and
Good.
and she was like, "This is great," and she bought some discs and is trying to get back out there again. So
Yeah, I did my presentation with Tulsa Douglas, and she's kind of thinking about it. I'm like, okay. She also wants to play football though, because she watched the Renegades. So yeah, okay, that's really good. So my other thought is, wouldn't it be fun to have a disc golf tournament this fall with just an ultimate division? I don't know how we would do that, or maybe just all ultimate, but I think that would, it'd be a way for people to get together. It'd be really fun and really funny and introduce the sport to other people.
that is a fun thing to look at. We should definitely
so you
talk
guys-
about that more.
We've talked about something similar. We've
Okay,
talked about
cool.
hosting a combo tournament, which is more like what you used to do, where it's like multiple individual events where ultimate teams play, and then after the tournament, they go play a real tournament of disc golf. But this would also be a great idea.
Yeah, so you guys, you get on it. I come up with the ideas, and people implement it. Yeah, I mean, like MTA is super fun. Do you guys know what throw, run, and catch is? TRC.
I assume you throw it, then you run it, and you catch it.
Catch it, and then they measure where you started and where you ended.
Yeah.
And you throw from a circle. It's really fun. It's really fun, and it's time. Anyway, so I just think there's we've got to do something this fall. Hopefully maybe as a community, and let's do some more disc golf and other things.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think
Okay,
I think
good.
it's just it comes back to whatever the world's going to look like this fall. I know the way that disc golf tournaments have been working is had to limit numbers because of the regulations that are in place. So I think they're only allowed to have 4 people per like hole is the way that the regulations are based. So most tournaments
Okay.
only have 72 players because of that. So
Yeah.
with something like this where we're trying to gather the whole Boston Ultimate or Massachusetts Ultimate community Could be a little
Yeah.
tough, but I think there's definitely creative ways to do it. So
Yeah, I mean, and it also just like a 1 day thing and maybe like a round and a half because ultimate players cannot focus for that long. You
even though we do play 9 games in a
but yeah,
weekend, but disc golf is a whole nother monster.
I know, right. It's a whole other thing. I remember going to a tournament in Charlton, which was 2 rounds on Saturday and 2 rounds on Sunday, and I just wanted to sob. It's like it was torture. So yeah, I don't know. We could do that closest to the pin. Oh my God, it could be a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Definitely. So going back to kind of growing the sport in the women's division, you have a lot of experience in growing ultimate,
Yeah.
both in youth and women's. I'm curious if you have any ideas for just general disc golf growth and how disc golf can go up from here, especially in getting the FPO field to catch up to the men's field.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the sport well enough now. Taking lessons from before and applying it, it's the old, if you build it, they will come. And I think that if there was, like you said, there's 72 people. I mean, they're only going to let in 4 or 5 women, right? If like 40 ultimate women signed up, they're not going to just have 32 men and 40 women, I guess.
I think it's first come, first serve. So if the 40 women sign up in the first 2 minutes, they're allowed to play.
Wow. Yeah, I'd love to do something like that. It's kind of, it's kind of like whatever. Yeah, that would be really fun. So, so women need more opportunities to play against other women, and women need, and I assume these happen on, at different places. They need clinics to learn how to throw these discs. It's going to be way easier for a good thrower of ultimate to learn how to throw golf discs, but it's still tricky. And I think part of it is we need to change we can't look at disc golf as a way to replace what we're missing from ultimate. And we have to kind of accept it as its own sport and find the joy that is there. And, and it's, there's joy. There's a lot of joy. It's like between the holes, you get to hang out at your car and have coffee and lunch.
Do you have any, besides the disc golf venture with James Brest, any future events where people may be able to find you when you resume your competitive disc golf career?
I don't know. Maybe Thursday before Maple Hill, I'll be hanging out, unless it's hot and humid and then I'm staying home. Yeah, I don't, like when are we all going to see each other again other than on just golf course? I don't really know. I mean, I have to go out and throw in a field, like I said before, like to get, I don't want to go throw my $25 freaky geeky whatever rainbow blah 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 disc, into the water, and like that'll infuriate me. So, yeah, I don't know. I think I'll be out there this fall sometime. Yeah, but I think it'll be fun. I was talking to Claire Chastain this weekend, and she's been playing some disc golf there, and it's not as much fun, obviously, and she sees very few women out there playing. So, again, I just want to say, like, let's go out there and play. It's it's fun and it's socially distanced and it's safe, or as safe as it can be. So I think we all need that in our lives at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. It's one of the best COVID-19 activities.
It is. And there's so many tournaments too. I can't believe how many they have. So a lot of opportunities.
Yeah. All right, Tiina, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it was great. I really enjoyed it. You guys got me pretty pumped to start doing more. And yeah.
Hopefully we'll see you out on the course soon. This has been the Hyzer Flip podcast by Ultimate Disc Golfer. For more great Ultimate and disc golf content, make sure to check out ultimatediscgolfer.com and follow @UltimateDiscGolfer on Instagram. Thanks for listening. Have a nice day.